Hello everyone, I'm Scarlet Darkling. I'm here today to bring you a guide to the Gold Proving Grounds Tank Edition. I'm going to be clearing it on my Guardian Druid here, Xylin, but this guide should be helpful for any kind of tank that wants to come in here and clear Gold Proving Grounds. Maybe it's on your Warlords of Draenor bucket list, and you're just looking for some achievements before Legion hits, I don't know, but I'm going to help you try to get through this. I'm going to go through, and every time a mob spawns in, I'm going to describe to you what the mob does and how to handle it, and hopefully, by the end of this, you'll be able to come in here on your own tank comfortably and handle it your own way. You don't need to do things exactly the way that I do, but if you understand how each and every wave works, this should be a much more comfortable process for you to get through. Just make sure that you come in here with your normal add-ons and whatever you'd like to do. You want to make this not stressful for yourself if you can at all help it. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around the room here and I'm going to place markers on the floor. I'm going to place them in the circles. I do this because it helps me to keep my bearings and helps me to remember where waves are going to spawn. I'm going to place the first one here directly in front of Rotan on that circle using Skull. Then, second off, I'm going to use the X in the next circle. After X, I'm going to go ahead and use blue. Then after that, I'm actually going to skip over silver because I feel it's too similar to Skull and can be kind of confusing. So I'm going to go with green. Then I'm going to use purple. And again, I'm going to skip orange because I feel it's kind of similar to red and go straight for yellow. So everything's different and very easy to see. Alright, now that the room's all marked, this should help you keep your bearings. This isn't required. I just found that it was easier for me to help to learn how to get through this. So now I'm going to go over here and I'm actually going to start the event. So to start off with, the very first wave is going to be on the red X. It always spawns in the exact same place. The first wave consists of a Sarok and a Mantid. The Sarok is basically just your average mob. He's light to medium melee hits, doesn't do a lot to you. The Mantid, however, has a knockback effect. The knockback will often wipe your aggro, or at least severely lower it, and end up with the healer having your aggro. There's nothing you can do about it, you can't interrupt it or anything, and usually 1 or 2 hits actually will get your aggro back fairly easily. But you can taunt, there's no reason not to taunt here. Finish killing this wave, and the next wave is going to be on Skull. Now, the next wave is going to be a Yongol Firecaller and a set of vermin. The Yongol Firecaller is going to cast a spell called Invoke Lava. Invoke Lava is going to put patches of lava on the ground in random places. The vermin are going to put a stacking bleed debuff on you that's going to end up hurting quite a bit. This is one of your first big challenges. Now, you can actually use the lava patches to your advantage. If you place the mobs in the lava, they actually gain a stacking debuff that causes a large amount of damage to them. But do watch your feet, because as you can see right here, I've actually stepped in it and I get the debuff. And it hurts, especially considering you have the bleed on top of you already that does a lot of damage. I find that this wave, the most effective thing to do is use stuns or anything to that effect. Slows are wonderful here, because you can actually just simply outrange the mobs and let the hot that she has on you heal you up. This wave is going to start out with 2 Soroks, but it's going to introduce mid-wave spawns. The mid-wave spawn is going to be an illusionary ambusher. This little guy that tosses bananas is going to do a move called Fan of Bananas. The Fan of Bananas is a stacking debuff that goes on to you that can hurt after a while as well, but since there aren't as many as, say, the vermin, it's not quite as bad. You're going to have to watch out for these guys coming in at regular intervals throughout the rest of the Proving Grounds, so just get used to kind of peeking around the room. I recommend keeping your sound on for this, because even though your Mistweaver is a little on the annoying side, she will call out if she has aggro, and there's been a time or two that's actually saved me. This next wave coming in on Skull is going to be another wave with a Mantid. Now, if you're fighting a Mantid, you can actually back yourself up here against this barricade, and just like I've done here, it has saved me from getting knocked too far back. But since I wasn't exactly straight on, it has actually kind of knocked me to the side. It's not really a big deal, and it's not required to do that. You can charge back in if you have a charge, whatever. But, you know, if you don't like being knocked all over the place, this is a good way of keeping yourself sort of stationary. And she can't get hit by your Fan of Bananas attack if you are up against the barricade. It is far enough away that she won't get the debuff. It is worth noting, though, that she has a relatively large health pool, so if she takes a few hits, it's not likely to kill her. She pretty much has to be swarmed in order to get taken out. This wave has another Invoke Lava, and it's also worth noting with these particular mobs that for the most part, the Yongol will be casting Pyroblast repeatedly at your face. It hurts. I recommend using every interrupt that's available to interrupt that spell. It's about the only spell that you're going to interrupt in here. I've stunned the ads here because I have one of them manted, and he's about to knock me back, and I just wanted to ensure that he got more stacks of the lava debuff, but it really isn't necessary. As a matter of fact, the lava itself really isn't that necessary in here. It just helps you to kill things faster, and sometimes the best defense is a good offense. If you find that you stand in it a lot, it may be just worth avoiding altogether. This next wave introduces the Mogu. The Mogu, aside from hitting fairly hard, do this cone AoE frontal attack. If you stand in the attack, you are stunned, which is not game over, but it certainly doesn't help you any. Shortly thereafter, as he has just done, he enrages. He does hit harder, but if you keep up active mitigation, it really isn't that bad. You may want to use a cooldown. Don't be afraid to use your cooldowns in here. Just once you've learned the waves, you'll know which waves it's more important to save a cooldown for and which ones it's good to use it on. And low cooldowns like Bark Skin, it's only 30 seconds, I think. They can be used much more frequently, and there's no reason that you shouldn't use them here. Now, with the Mogu's stun, be aware that you're gonna get caught in the stun. It's going to happen. It happens to me in this video. It happens to me in every video. It happens to me every time I come in here, no matter how many times I've done it. So don't feel bad or upset if you get stunned. It's not game over. Every tank has some sort of cooldown that can be used while stunned. See, I've just been stunned here. Bark Skin, for example, works, and I know that with every class there is one. So if you get stunned and you're worried about it, just simply use that cooldown to try to mitigate some of the damage while you're in there. It's not necessarily going to end your Proving Ground experience. Proving Grounds doesn't have to be perfect or clean every time. You just simply have to make sure that yourself and your healer make it to the end, and past that, who cares? So, now you've learned what all the various mobs do, and they're just going to continue to come out in different combinations. Gold isn't too bad because you only get one wave of the vermin, and they're going to be one of the most frustrating parts to most people. One thing to note while in the Proving Grounds is that your Mistweaver healer has a tendency to grab aggro. Aggro doesn't seem to work quite the same in here as it does in a regular dungeon. However, part of a way to combat that is simply getting an attack off before she has a chance to. Anticipating where they might spawn, getting a hit off first, really can make the difference between actually getting aggro off of her and actually having to fight. You only have one taunt, and if a pack of mobs comes in and hits her, you're going to have a really hard time peeling them all off. Now I've positioned this big guy in here in the lava to get the stacking debuff, but you'll notice that I've actually stood in the lava myself and gotten something like 10 stacks. Again, it's not deadly. Everyone's going to slip up. This is one of the reasons I say you may want to skip the lava altogether, especially with these guys. I find I have a hard time positioning them, not getting stunned, and not standing in the lava. I have been stunned in the lava before. It is not a good time. As long as you practice your active mitigation and keep things up as you would tanking, you're going to do fine in the Gold Proving Grounds. It's nothing too horrendously difficult. The worst wave that's going to give you a hard time is likely the second wave with the vermin and the bleeds, and then the 10th wave, which has 2 of the large Mogu as well as other ads. The 2 Mogu are the frustrating part because their AoE cone effects will go off just one after another very shortly, and so if you accidentally get stuck in one, you're likely to get stuck in the second. And if you run out of the first one, the second one's going to be going off right about where you run to. And it's going to be a little bit frustrating for you at first. The timer in this Proving Grounds means nothing. It just means that that's when the next wave is going to come in. So if you haven't killed it already, you're now going to have more ads on top of the ones you're already tanking. You will not lose if you haven't killed everything by the time the timer's up, including the 10th wave. I've chosen for the majority of this to stay around Skull or X and just view around the room and watch, because I find it's better to just react to what's going on half the time. But there are some waves with small ads, like the waves with the vermin, that are best to intercept, because trying to get all 6 vermin off of the healer are very difficult, and the bleed can hurt her. Though if you scroll over her health pool, as I said before, it is rather large. If you're the kind of tank that has healing ability, which most do, you can actually heal your Mistweaver if she's lower on health than you are. Hopefully this guide has helped you understand how all of the mobs work, and you'll be able to come in here on your tank and do it your own way and be comfortable. And you can clear gold, and then together we'll move on to Endless 1 through 10, and I'll teach you how to go through all of those as easily as possible, so that hopefully, before Legion comes out, you can have your title also. Thank you so much for watching my guide. I hope that it was helpful, and I hope you enjoy Legion when it comes out, and, may you finish all of your bucket list wishes. Thanks for tuning in.